First of all, thank you so much, Raushan, for being here today on my channel. I believe your experience, your journey is going to be really helpful for the audience. Guys, let me tell you that Raushan is having 5+ years of experience and he has cracked offers from various top-notch companies. So we'll get a chance that how did he make it to these many companies, how he got these many offers. So make sure to be with us till the end of this video. So Raushan, you can start with your introduction.
Yeah, sure, Soumya, and thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm Roshan, and currently I have overall 4.8 years of experience as a Java developer. And currently I'm working with Blue Yonder. And previously I worked with Cognizant as well as Manhattan Associates. And Blue Yonder I've just joined, I think, like a couple of months back. And so, yeah, this is all about me. And yeah, I have completed my BE into Electronics and Communication in 2019.
Also, if you can specify some of the offers that you got at the time when
Okay,
you were looking
you
for
want
a
me
job.
to include the offers as well?
Yeah, you can mention about them so that audience can just know that, okay, you have cracked these many companies.
Yeah, so like initially I started with HCL and I had put down my paper and then I had multiple offers like
Mm-hmm.
EY, KPMG, Accolite Digital, and then Society Generale, and then Blue Yonder, and then apart from this entity data. Yeah, so these were the some of them I'm able to recall.
Okay, so there was this Accolite Digital offer as well. So, guys, as you can see, he has cracked these many companies. So, obviously, covering each and every interview experience won't be possible in that video. If you want, we will have another podcast for the same. But in this video, we will just deep dive into his interview experience with Accolite Digital. So, Roshan, let's start with this one. So, can you please let us know how you got this opportunity, then the interview rounds you had with Accolite Digital, and then what was the interview process? I mean, the questions, not exactly I want you to mention the question, but if you can just mention the important topics that you have been through.
Yeah, sure. I got call from Naukri, and it was a direct call from the recruiter. And so he specified me like what are the steps. And so he said that the first round will be an assessment kind of. And the assessment it was mainly kind of like you will be provided with two coding questions, and apart from that, I think 25 or 30 MCQ questions. And as specified by the recruiter, MCQs were not that important, but the important part was that if I could get more on those coding questions. And
Mhm.
so, I worked hard and like I was able to solve those coding questions, not both completely, but yeah, to some extent, the first one I has completed fully, and then the second one it was almost done, but somewhere I was lagging. And then apart from that, MCQ it went all good. So
Mhm.
gradually I qualified for the second round. And in the second round, I felt like it was more of, they were checking the Java fundamentals, and they were trying to pick up all topics from all areas like Java, SQL, Spring Boot, microservices, like what my current role was and like what I was expecting from the next role. So these kind of questions, and mostly they was
Mhm.
checking the fundamental kind of thing. And then
Okay.
like I cleared this round as well. And
Mhm.
once I cleared this round, so the next round was the client round, and for me
Mhm.
it was Goldman. So
Okay.
this client round was mostly it was mostly into coding.
Mhm.
So the coding questions mostly consisted of like string array and linked list,
Okay.
data structure and algorithm mostly. And apart from that, initially the this client round mostly starts with the they want to understand like what exactly we were doing in our current role. And so he
Mhm.
was asking questions like the technology which we are using and what day to day activities look like. So yeah, the
Mhm.
expectation was quite good. I felt like with
Okay.
5 years, almost 5 years of experience, they were expecting something and being to the point rather than beating around the bushes. And so
Got it.
once the intro part was done, like I was able to explain them what my responsibilities was in my
Mhm.
current organization, that is Manhattan Associates. And so later I went ahead with the coding questions. And so there were some questions, I think like two to three coding questions. And I don't think like I didn't feel like it was very tough. It was simple,
Okay.
straightforward, like reversing a linked list and then
Mhm.
array list. They gave an array list and they wanted me to sort it with the help of merge sort and all. So the questions were
Okay.
not, I think like it was quite straightforward. So I was able to do it.
Got it. So, other than this, there was any other round, or like these were the two rounds only, and then you got eventually got the result?
So for managerial round, the last one was the managerial round, and in the managerial round, mostly they try to check the situational kind of question, like very common questions like which you find which are easy to prepare, like what are the most challenging situation you have faced in your role. And then like they also ask like what do you do like if you have some kind of ideas popping up in your mind. So like how do you proceed with that? And like if being 5 years of experience, so like are you only responsible for your day-to-day activities, or there are some juniors in your team like whom you are helping them and doing taking care of them, like whatever issues they come up with. So these kind of questions they come up with. And like also
Mhm.
like for my for in my case, like my product was warehouse, so they also expected me like the current warehouse product. So like what are the additional ideas which I think personally should be added into the product, so as to for the betterment of the product. So like these were the
Mhm.
common questions which were asked during the managerial round.
Mhm. Got it. So basically, as you were appearing for the senior role, so it's not that you are getting your own work done, but you are mentoring, you are
Hmm.
helping your juniors as well. That was the
Yeah, yeah.
expectation. Well, thanks for specifying that. So for managerial round, it's important that you are not only showcasing your work itself, you are showcasing your mentorship, mentoring skills, because
Yeah, yeah.
eventually in the senior role, you have to help your juniors as well. Well, thank you so much for specifying properly all the details, Roshan. So the next question is regarding the important topics. Like since you have been through lots of interviews, you must have faced rejections as well, got selected in so many companies as well. So what are those key important topics that you find that okay, these were frequently asked and these are the most important one that one should know, especially when looking for the experience roles?
So, like after giving so many interviews, so like what I felt is like with 4+ years of experience, so like mostly they were hitting into Java 8 features. So they were expecting someone like we already have Java 11 and Java 17. So they were expecting at least one should be confident with Java 8. It's not like just being aware of the basics of Java 8. They were expecting some strong understanding of Java 8, especially the Stream API. And mostly what I felt is like in even in the product as well, mostly in the service based companies, so the coding questions which they gave, it was mostly emphasizing on Stream API questions. So they were expecting us to code with the help of Stream API. Apart from that, Stream API, I feel solid principles and design patterns were also most important. Like these three topics were being repeated most of the time. And when it comes to design patterns, so like they were expecting like it's not only like we should tell them like what design patterns are, and we simply explain them what exactly they are. So they were expecting like what kind of application we have and where we have seen these things in our product or in our project. So like I had to explain them that this particular design pattern I have seen in my product into this particular functionality, and the reason like why this particular design pattern has been implemented for this particular functionality. Apart from that, like if you're targeting medium product based companies, then in that case like mostly they were focusing on the areas like string, linked list, array list. So these are the things like they were mostly touching up.
Got it. So two points that I can conclude from here, Roshan, that you have specified that as you move to the senior role side, so it's less about your theoretical knowledge what you have. It's more about the practical knowledge, as you yourself specified, right? So you should know how
Correct.
things will be done. They will expect the implementation at your end, right? And the other thing that you have mentioned, so most of the time that even people, the experienced candidates even do ask me that okay, they are not well versed with the top notch these graph trees, these data structures,
Mhm.
but they want to be in a product based company. So as you have yourself specified that not all product based companies are asking for these data structures. If you are confident with the linear data structures itself, you can crack the product based company. So thanks for
Yeah, correct,
mentioning
correct.
that. Well, there is this
Yeah.
one question that I frequently get. I believe many candidates has asked you the same to you as well, that they are done with their preparation. They are well versed with it, but they are not even getting the interview calls. So how did you manage to get these many calls? What would be your advice so that other candidates also can expect the calls from the company's end?
Yeah, so like what I personally believe is like one should not be dependent on one particular source. So like I was trying from all angle. So like I had followed basically three ways. The one was Naukri app. So from Naukri app, I was getting the calls. I was frequently updating on daily basis. In the morning, I used to update my Naukri profile. I used to make sure that my resume is up to date. And the second source was LinkedIn. So on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, like I had posted about myself being open to work and like being a Java developer. I'm looking for an opportunity. So like since I had so many connections, so like I was getting help from there also. Apart from that, what I felt most important was is like on LinkedIn, like previously from past 1 year, I was trying to make connections with recruiters from each company, especially from my favorite company. So I had a
Mm-hmm.
list of companies whom I knew that I'll be targeting next year. So on daily basis, I used to send at least 5 to 10 connection requests to the HRs and recruiters from that particular company. And so in that way, mostly in my connections, they are talent acquisition recruiters and HRs only. So what I did is like I simply tried reaching out to each HR, and I simply mentioned them that hi, I have 4.8 years of experience into Java, Spring Boot, microservices, data structure and algorithm. I'm already serving notice period. Could you please help me with an opportunity? So I tried sending this particular text only to every HR recruiter, whoever is was there in my connection. And so like
Mhm.
what I felt is like if we are trying to reach them out, and if they have an opportunity, they will definitely revert back. And this way, like I realized that I was able to schedule multiple interviews. So this was something additional which I did. And so yeah, it's not easy. So like after a whole day giving interviews, so at night I used to send these messages to every day to 50, 100 people like that. And so accordingly, like if you're reaching out to so many people on LinkedIn. So ultimately, some or the other will come up and help you with an opportunity. So this also worked with me.
Definitely. And I mean, I must say that this is a different approach. The approach that you've shared, that you have followed, and then you have got so many calls. So that's why even people do complain that they are not getting the calls, but they are going with the shortcut, not even trying. Let's see, in your case, you have sent the messages so too many peoples, and then I believe that not everyone has reverted back, but few of them eventually reverted, and you got so many opportunities, so many interview calls scheduled. So that's a very nice approach. Thanks for mentioning that. Well, when you were in that preparation phase, you were preparing for the switch. So would you like to specify certain resources? I mean, there are lots of resources nowadays, but still, if you feel like, okay, these were some of the resources that has helped you a lot during the preparation time, if you can just mention, then it will be helpful for the audience.
Yeah. So like what I did is like first of all in my personal notebook I had the topics which I was trying to prepare. Maybe it might be related to Java, Spring Boot, microservices, data structure. All the topics I had listed. And so
Mhm.
like during the last minute before the interview, it's not possible to revise everything. So like
Right.
what I had done is, or what I have been doing during my first switch also and during this switch also. What I did is like there is a video for Java on Telesco, and like it covers all the topics, complete topics for Java in just single video, and that 12 hours of video. So I
Mhm.
used to refer that particular video, and like at 3x 2x speed, and like I used to cover everything. So that way I used to revise at the last moment, and like that was the most important thing. Apart from that, after giving multiple interviews, whichever topic I felt like I was not doing good, so that topic in Geeks for Geeks, we have that most frequently asked questions for product based companies. There's a section with this name. So if you go to that section, so on topic wise, they have the coding questions listed there. So I used to try 4 to 5 questions from each topic, and then accordingly I used to prepare.
Okay. I'm like just curious to know, and if I mean this question also many people ask that how much time does it take? So if I will ask you that, I mean, since the time you have make up your mind, okay, now I want to switch, and then you eventually started preparing and applying. So how much time did you actually took to revise all sort of things?
Like what I feel is like to be honest, like I'm not very consistent kind of guy. So like if someone is really very consistent, and like sometimes we are habituated, like we'll be spending some huge amount of time on weekends, and then we'll be trying to prepare for the next switch, and we follow that way. But I think that that way is not practically possible. So what I used to do is like every day, if even if I'm able to give 30 minutes, 1 hour, that should be sufficient. So like out of 7 days, I used to spend 5 days trying to cover all topics, and
Mm-hmm.
accordingly like 2 days rest kind of thing I used to take it, rather than mostly being dependent on the weekends. So weekends used to be for me it was relaxing days, and 5 days consistently like 30 minutes to 1 hour, accordingly I used to prepare. So like I think like I have been doing this from past 6 to 7 months, and so accordingly like I was able to proceed. And also like you cannot wait for yourself to be 100% prepared, and so
Mm-hmm.
accordingly like you will proceed with the interview. It never happens that way. So even
Right.
if you feel like you are 60% to 70% done, then you can jump into it. And accordingly like you might face some rejections. Like I faced so many rejection initially, but then
Mm-hmm.
accordingly like even I felt frustrated. But I had a habit of listing down the questions, and then I used to prepare accordingly. And so after giving multiple interviews, at one point of time what I felt is, whether it is service or medium product based companies, I started to feel that they were asking same or the other questions every time. So it was being like same question was being repeated. So accordingly, like I had prepared.
Right. So there is this one very valid point that you have mentioned, that we cannot be fully prepared anytime. So most of the times what happens that we are missing out on many opportunities because we are just waiting for that right time when we'll be fully prepared, but it won't happen. So when you get that
Never.
little bit confident कि हाँ थोड़े फंडामेंटल मेरे क्लियर हो गए हैं, स्पेसिफिक टॉपिक्स मैंने प्रिपेयर कर ली, स्टार्ट एटलीस्ट स्टार्ट अप्लाइंग, एज यू सेड दैट इन द स्टार्टिंग यू वर
Exactly.
also facing rejections. So with rejections you will get to know certain set of questions as well. So let's say even if from 10 companies continuously you are facing rejections, so at least 50 plus questions I can expect a good amount of 50 plus questions now you have with you. And you also mentioning, right, after a certain time you will feel like okay, these questions are getting repeated, right? And there are so many companies, even if you are not getting selected in one company you can eventually get selected in the another one.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
so with that note, let's hope on to our next question. So as you know, you were holding offers from these many companies, right? And eventually they all are good in some or another thing. So how did you basically negotiate it, first of all? And how did you decided, okay, this is the one I should go with? Like, what were the parameters for you?
Yeah. So, like, personally, what I believe is like one should be prepared for the worst case scenario. It is not like it's not like always things will happen the way you have planned and like it will go according to you. So accordingly, like I had in my mind, like I had planned that this is the worst case scenario and I can go for it. But personally, since I was already working in a product based company, which is Manhattan Associate, and so
Mm-hmm.
like in like I was like I should be targeting a product based company. Doesn't matter what kind of it is, if the work culture is good and if the amount they're offering is good. So like I thought that I'll be proceeding with it. But initially, to be honest, like it was I was getting calls from only service based companies, and that too like it was they were offering the same amount. And also the thing is like they were of same kind. Like if you look at EY, KPMG, Society Generally, these companies are somewhat at the same level. So it becomes quite difficult when you have offers from the same company and that too from the same level, and they offer you also the same thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
thank God, like during my last 15 days, all of a sudden, like I started getting more number of calls, and also the LinkedIn messages which I had sent on LinkedIn messages which I have sent to the recruiters and the HR. So finally, I was getting response since I had already done 30 days back. So now I was getting the responses and I was able to schedule the interview. So that way, like especially for in case of Oracle, also like I had appeared, although it didn't work in the last round. But yeah, it was because of LinkedIn only that I was able to get that interview scheduled. So it was ultimately. So what I did is like for me, it was not only CTC which I was targeting. For me, it was overall company's work culture. Of course, CTC is also important. So these two things combined, I used to see, and like I used to go through the reviews on the Glassdoor, and accordingly, like I used to decide. So finally, like during the end, like what I felt is like the offer which I had Blue Yonder. So like I felt it was in warehouse department only, and also it had Glassdoor rating 4 plus. And you know, for an organization to have 4 plus rating is really very superb. So
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, I went with it.
Got it. Got it. So, Roshan, I believe that these were the certain set of questions that I was getting repeatedly and I discussed with you. And thanks for explaining them so well. Well, before wrapping up this podcast, I have this question, right? When we start with the things, right? Maybe it can be your first switch and then the second switch that you did. So there could be some mistakes that you were not aware and then you figure out at your own. So what were those mistakes that one can avoid while preparing for the switches, or anything else that you would like to specify to the candidates?
Yeah, there is some this is some common issue, and I feel like we have already discussed it. Like we what we do is like we underrate ourselves, like we underestimate ourselves, like we are not up to the mark. I feel like we should not feel that way. We There are multiple resources nowadays on internet, and so like even with Chat GPT, like you know, it is
Hmm.
quite helpful to be honest. So and with the help of multiple resources, I think like one can, if someone is giving 4 to 6 months, then he's capable of cracking any interview, to be honest. So like I think like if we are underestimating ourselves, so that way we are limiting ourselves, and this is what mistake I had done during my first switch, to be honest. So this way actually I was not very confident, and then accordingly I started. And so like what I feel is because I underestimated myself, and because of the less confidence in myself, so I feel like I could have been somewhere else, but
Hmm.
at this present I'm not that at place. just because like I was underestimating myself. But then accordingly, like when you start giving the interviews, you realize some of the other potential, like when you hear like other people are not able to clear these companies and you are able to clear those companies with little effort also, then you realize your energy and like your potential, and then accordingly you proceed with that. So I feel like one should be confident and they should believe in themselves. This is the most important thing.
Like that's a great advice, Roshan. Because of being underconfident, sometimes we don't even find ourselves worthy to apply to those opportunities. We think that okay, eventually we will be rejected, so let's not even apply. So one should not do that. At least try. You never know. Sometimes it's your preparation plus sometimes it's a little bit of luck as well that you can get hired there, right? So sometimes we have that mindset, okay, these company must be asking these tough level of questions or whatnot, and then eventually we are not applying or not giving interviews. These kind of scenarios does happen. So that's a very valid point that you have mentioned. So thank you so much, Roshan. It was a great discussion with you. I hope this podcast will be helpful. And guys, if you want to connect with him to know more or you have certain other set of questions, I have mentioned his LinkedIn profile in the description, so go check it out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Soumya.